Hi, friends. How are you? Are you doing great? I hope you're doing okay. I don't like to show the back of my head because, normally I just clip in my extensions all messy because I'm like, no one sees it. So, a new view. Hi, how are you today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. My name is BaileySarian, and today is Monday, which means it's Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Monday. I know. You all miss the theme song. I know. Don't worry, I'm not trying to run from it. I still love it. If you saw me in person, I'm gonna sana right back. If you are new here, hi, hello. My name is Bailey, and I talk about a true crime story that's been heavy on my noggin, and I do my makeup at the same time. If you're ever curious to know what I'm using, I do list the products down in the description box. Before we jump into today's story, we do have a sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Casetify. I have been purchasing Casetify phone cases for years. Not only do they do a fantastic job at protecting the cellular device, but also because there are just so many cute cases to choose from. Casetify has the best selection of curated prints to fit anyone's vibe. You can also personalize cases with different fonts and design layouts to make it totally unique to you and your aesthetic. Plus, they also make great gifts for friends and/or family. Yeah, that's a good gift. Personally, I have a hard time choosing which case to get. I love the different designs, but also the fact that I can personalize my own case and truly make it my own. It's fun, and I just really enjoy the cases. Also, their new Impact and Ultra Impact cases, which are made from 65% recycled and plant-based materials, are aligned with Chi-Tech 2.0. Now, this is a shock dispersing material, and it's lined inside the case bumper, protecting all four corners, and offers drop protection of up to 9.8 feet. Oh yeah. What's even better is the fact that you get this great protection, but also you're not stuck with an ugly ass case. Sometimes those phone cases that are bulky and protect your phone, other brands and stuff, they're ugly. And you're like, okay, thanks. But not with Casetify. You get that Chi-Tech 2.0 protection, but you're not having to sacrifice style and cuteness. And then Casetify also has something called the Re-Casetify program. The Re-Casetify program upcycles end-of-life phone cases, bioplastic, and excess plastic, like manufacturing scraps, to give new life to post-consumer waste. So if you have an old phone case lying around, I'm sure you have a few, you can recycle them with the Re-Casetify program. And not only are you recycling your phone case, but you'll also get a special discount for your next purchase. Hi, great, love that. This is I think last time I did this, I had this phone case. I love it. I like this one. Thank you. If this sounds like your cup of tea, head on over to casetify.com/BaileySarian to save 15% off your order. A big thank you to Casetify for partnering with me on today's episode, and a big thank you to you guys because truthfully, without you, I would not be here, and I appreciate you, and I hope you know that. Thank you. Love you. Let me fix this because it's bothering me, like this. There we go. Yeah, it was reflecting that white. I wasn't thrilled. So this week, we are going to take a journey to France. Oh yeah. To be more specific, it's France, but in the 1930s. France around this time, the history, it seems magical in some ways, not always. There were all these incredible, opulent parties where all the best writers and creatives would gather together, drink, and share stories. So imagine that this is your life for a moment. Endless evenings of dancing, partying, drinking, kicking up your feet at the most popular clubs with a champagne glass in one hand and your lover in the other, singing songs and smoking the night away. And on the night of February 2nd, 1933, René Lancelin, who I'm going to call Mr. Lancelin, he had planned to attend one of these parties for himself, his wife, and their daughter in the hometown of Le Mans. So just a little disclaimer here if you're new or maybe you forgot, I'm not very good at words. Therefore, French words words. French words. I will most likely be butchering. Please don't come for me. I'm trying my best. Anywho, Mr. Lancelin had done pretty well for himself. He had retired early from his job as a lawyer, and the family was financially pretty well off. I mean, they didn't have to worry about money or finances. They were just living life. I roll. But they did indeed love to celebrate and be around friends and parties and stuff and social activities whenever possible. So Mr. Lancelin was handling some business during the day. And then once he was done, he was going to head over to this dinner party where he would meet up with his wife and daughter who were supposed to already be there. The day goes on, he does his thing, and he comes to this dinner party and he's like looking around, right? Trying to see if he could spot his wife or daughter. So he's looking and looking and he's like, I don't know, maybe they're not here yet. So he goes and he mingles amongst the guests. And as time goes on, he's like, dude, my wife still isn't here. When he asked some of the people at the party, like, have you heard from my wife or anything? Nobody had heard from them. And this was making Mr. Lancelin feel a little uneasy. So he decided to just head home. Maybe they're there, something, what's going on, right? And when he gets there, he opens up the front door and ooh, what a sight to be seen. So when you walk into the front door, a few feet away is the staircase, you know? He saw at the foot of the stairs lay the dead bodies of his wife, Leonie, and his daughter, Genevieve. And let me tell you, it was brute. When he gets closer to the two of them, he sees that there's a thick pool of blood that had gathered at the base of the stairs where the bodies were, and also saw that each of them, his wife and his daughter, their eyes were gouged, plucked, removed from their sockets. Oh, and it was intense. Like, it looked like they had been clawed out, okay? So this is the early 1900s, remember? Solving mysteries wasn't like the easiest thing to do. I don't know how they did it. But it was obvious to Mr. Lancelin that someone had it out for these two. I mean, this seemed like a very passionate crime. Who did it? Well, in order to answer that question, we now bring to the stage a woman named Clémence and her three daughters, Amelia, Christine, and Leah. Okay, so who is this Clémence lady? She was a young woman living in France. She worked mostly at like local shops up until the year 1901 when she married a man named Gustave Papin. Gustave and Clémence, many say they didn't marry for love. That's not me being shady. It just kind of seems like it may be the truth because I guess they like had hooked up, right? And then Clémence, she got pregnant. And because this is the 1900s, you gotta get married. You can't have a baby out of wedlock. People will lose their shit if you did so. So the two were like, guess we're getting married. Don't really want to, but this is something we got to do. And then Clémence, she had their first daughter, who they named Amelia. In 1904, Gustave found out that Clémence, she had like a little fling with another man. Yeah, and I guess this was like very upsetting to Gustave. I mean, sure, yes, that makes sense. And he was like, you know what? We're moving. We're starting over. And Clémence, she didn't want to move. She threw a fit, saying that if we move, like, I'm gonna kill myself. When things got rough, that was kind of like Clémence's answer. Gustave and the family, they ended up moving. They moved to like some town called Meringue. They had their second daughter, Christine, followed by their third and last daughter, Leah, in 1911. So as the years went on, Gustave developed a drinking problem. He was getting drunk all of the time, and the family seemed to be just very toxic. Clémence was not a great mother. She didn't even want kids. She let them know that. And then in 1913, Clémence, she discovered that Gustave had molested their oldest daughter, Amelia. Now, Amelia was just 10 years old. So when Clémence found this out, Clémence divorced Gustave, decided to, take her children and leave. And at first, you're like, yeah, good for her, girl. Like, get away from that abusive, toxic man, right? Protect your children. But the truth is, Clemence actually believed that Amelia was the one who had seduced her husband, and it was her fault. Clemence believed this was the case, and as punishment for seducing her husband, Clemence decided it would be best to send Amelia away. So she sends her to an orphanage run by some pretty strict nuns called Les Bons Pasteurs. How'd I do? So she sends her there. Now, this place had a reputation for working their children hard and being very strict. So what I'm saying is Clemence sent her daughter away to live in a strict orphanage run by nuns as punishment for getting molested. So there's that. She would end up sending her middle child, Christine, to the orphanage where Amelia was at, and then sent her third daughter, Leah, to live with some relatives. So Clemence just, I'm laughing because she just full on got rid of everybody. She's like, bye kids, good luck. French law at this time is a little funky. I mean, shoot, all laws are a little funky in the early 1900s, I would think. But apparently, your parents could just kind of like choose what you did and where you lived up until you were an adult. So if they wanted to, your parents could work out a deal with, let's say, like a very wealthy family and basically hand you over to work as like a live-in maid servant. And in exchange, they, the parents, would make some money. It wasn't a lot, but I mean, hey, it was money. So Clemence put the girls in the orphanage with the nuns so that she wouldn't have to take care of them. And in the meantime, these nuns were teaching them how to read, how to write, teaching them proper manners, plus the most important things, how to cook and clean. Now, Amelia, the oldest daughter, she was thriving. I mean, yes, she was living in this orphanage with like pretty strict rules, but for her, it was a safe environment away from her alcoholic, abusive father and her awful, mean mother. So Amelia, she liked it with the nuns, and this pissed her mother off, okay? She's supposed to be suffering. So Clemence would take the two sisters, Leah and Christine, and they would end up working and living together as servants for different families. So they were working together for quite some time, and they worked well together. And that was just how it was going for them pretty much, okay? Going from orphanage to hired help, from house to house to house. This was their whole teenage life. And yes, they were making money, but it's not like they got to keep it, you know? The money was being sent back to their mother, and the kids were really left with nothing. So because, I got too much. So because Christine and Leah were working together so much, the two became very close, you know? Some would say closer than two sisters should be. And over the years, their relationship evolved from being sisterly into being more like lovers. Yeah, plot twist. I did not see that one coming. When I read that, I was like, wait a minute. What? At first, I was like, that's really gross. Okay? And I'm not trying to justify the situation. But I was like, look, Bailey, look. They weren't allowed to speak to anyone when working for these families. They only had each other. So yeah, they probably banged and did some stuff. So it's now the year 1926, and Christine is 22 years old. So that would make Leah somewhere around like 16 or 17 years old. Around this time, Christine started working for a well-off fancy family in Le Mans, a retired lawyer by the name of Rene Lancelin. Circling back to the guy from the beginning. Now, again, the Lancelins were like a very well-established family, not to mention well-respected and even envied for their lifestyle and their beautiful ass home. And Christine is working with this new family for about 2 months, and I guess they really liked her and they wanted to hire somebody else, and she recommended her sister. So Leah was hired and came to work for the family as well. So the two sisters were back together with this family. They were given good food, which was like not really a thing to the live-in servants. They were given nice clothes to wear for church on Sundays. They also shared a bedroom, but this bedroom, it had a heater. The downside was they had a lot of responsibilities. Like they had to clean the entire home. They had to do all the cooking and stuff and just the daily chores. The two sisters would spend anywhere from 12 to 14 hours a day working in the home. And then they would do this 7 days a week. The only time they got off was when they had to attend church, which they had to attend. So is that considered off time? But it seemed to be working for them because, I mean, the sisters would end up working for this family for over 7 years. And they claimed to have never, not once, spoken to Mr. Lancelin throughout those 7 years, which is wild. They were only allowed to communicate to Mr. Lancelin's wife, Leonie, or their daughter, Genevieve. But that was only like if they were spoken to. You couldn't just like go up to them, be wild, and start a conversation with these people. So again, the sisters really just had one another. But rumor had it that Leonie, Mr. Lanson's wife, she had very unrealistic standards when it came to the cleanliness and order in her home. She would go throughout the entire house doing her so-called white glove test, where she would check all the surfaces in the house and run her finger along the surface, right? And if there was any type of residue or anything on her white glove, things were not cleaned to her standard, and the girls would be punished. There were times when Leonie would bash their heads against the wall if they messed up. Like, there was this other time when Leonie found a spot that the girls had missed during their cleaning, and this just really set her off. It depended on the day. Not only did she bash their head in the walls, there was this one time where she like pinched and like dragged Leah over to the area that was dirty, forced her to clean the area again while she stood there and watched. But she was pinching her skin so hard that Leah started to bleed and just left like nasty bruises. I guess it was just really awful. Later that night, Leah told her sister, Christine, that if Leonie ever tried to do something like that again, she would defend herself next time. So the Papin sisters, they became very secluded. They just were very secluded. They were always with each other at the home. They rarely left or socialized with anyone. So as the years went on, the sisters, Christine and Leah, they had been romantically involved with each other for quite some time. I'm laughing because, it's just, that's a weird thing to say. The two were making a little more money, so they were able to splurge every so often and like buy themselves nice clothing. They would like go in their room and try on the clothes for one another and then like model for each other and then do stuff. But all of that came to a halt on February 2nd, 1933. Yes, my dear friends, we have returned to the fateful night that this episode began on. Mr. Lancelin was planning on seeing his wife and daughter at a dinner party. The two of them, the wife and daughter, they were out shopping and like, I guess, running errands before going to the party. But they were, they're all going to meet there. You get it. With the family out of the house all day preparing for this party, Christine, who was 28 at the time, and Leah, who was 21, were left completely alone at the home to go about their usual routine. Now, Leah had been given the task of taking the house's iron down to the electrician's shop to get repaired. She goes down there, she drops it off, she gets it fixed or whatever. She brings it home and she plugs the iron in. And when she plugs it in, it blew a fuse and the entire house lost power. So, whoopsie. So the two sisters are trying to figure out, like, what's their best move here? If they fixed the power, it would take time away from, like, their daily tasks. And then, like, having to get the iron fixed again would also just take up time that they need to spend on other things. So they decided it would be best, like, hey, let's use the rest of the daylight to finish the chores. The power and the iron, we can handle that tomorrow. The family, they weren't supposed to be home until like super late that night, so it should be okay because maybe they won't notice. So they go about their day, they're doing their stuff, they're cleaning like normal, whatever. Unfortunately, things did not go according to plan. Leonie and Genevieve returned home sometime between like 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. Without warning. Which, to be fair, I mean, it's their home. They don't need a warning. They can come and go as they please. But the sisters were like, oh shit, like they're not supposed to be home. So the two ladies come into the house and whoopsie, not only is the power out, but Leonie, she's like, excuse me, my clothes are not folded or ironed. What have you guys been doing all day? And I guess from like Leonie's perspective, nothing had been done and the girls had just been like lollygagging all damn day. So Leonie was livid. And like mentioned earlier before, when Leonie was livid, it was not a good thing. So Christine, she's trying her best to explain what happened. According to Christine, Leonie wasn't having it and she ended up attacking Christine. Leonie, she attacks Christine. And Christine said in self-defense, she grabbed a pewter jug, which I had to Google because I was like, what the fuck is a pewter jug? It's like a fancy looking pitcher that's made from metal alloy, mostly from like tin. So Christine grabs this and then she's like she beats the shit out of Leonie. And she's like, I was defending myself, which touche. Defend with that pewter jug. And then the daughter, Genevieve, she jumps in. She sees what's going on. She jumps in, trying to fight off Christine and help out her mother. Pretty much it was just like a full-on girl fight. So the other sister, Leia, she was in the kitchen at the time and she had no idea what was going on. But she hears a commotion. She comes running into the room and she sees Christine on the ground trying to, in my mind, that's what I picture. She's like trying to fight off Genevieve and Leonie who are attacking her. Something snaps in Christine and Christine yells, I'm gonna massacre them, which is like quite the announcement. So Leia starts attacking Leonie, and she's trying to stop her from beating Christine. Meanwhile, Christine starts shouting and like yelling at Leia what to do. Supposedly, Christine yelled for Leia to like smash Leonie's head in and tear her eyes out. Christine did just that. She snatched the girl's eyes out, and I guess Leia snatched Leonie's eyes out, but some eyes were definitely indeed snatched with the fingers. Is that easy? Is it really that easy? You could just... I don't like that. I don't like how easy this sounds. Once that was done and their eyes were indeed snatched, the whole thing got taken to the next level. It was no longer self-defense, ladies. Genevieve and Leonie are on the floor screaming with no eyeballs. So the sisters were like, hey, we can do whatever we want to them because they can't fight back. Like, they can't see us. So they walked around the house to look for some tools to help them finish the job. They grabbed a knife and they grabbed a hammer. So they ended up using the hammer first to beat the women until Leonie and Genevieve stopped screaming. Once the sisters knew that Leonie and Genevieve were dead, they decided it would be best to cut them up. And according to some sources, this whole attack and mutilation lasted about 2 hours. Police photos from the time show a very gruesome scene. Leonie and Genevieve had been mutilated pretty badly. Like, I guess it was just very brutal. And that is exactly how they've been found just hours later by Mr. Lancelin. It actually took Mr. Lancelin a lot longer to get inside his own house to discover the gruesome crime scene. I simplified it in the beginning. You see, when he first showed up, he saw that all the lights were out and the front door was locked. So he figured that his wife and daughter probably headed to that dinner party and he probably like just missed them. He went back to the party before realizing that they still weren't there. So this time when he realizes that his family isn't at this party, he has that uneasy feeling and he has the police meet him at his house. So they are able to open up the front door and the police saw the bodies of Leonie and Genevieve at the foot of the stairs. And when they got closer, they found that Leonie's eyes had been buried in her scarf that was wrapped around her neck. And there was another set of eyeballs on the stairs. And both of the women had been beaten so badly that they could hardly recognize them. So police naturally have to like search the home, right? Is anybody still in the house? So they go upstairs, and that's when they see there is a little bit of light coming from a certain room. That room was where the sisters, Christine and Leah, stayed in. Police approached their door, tried to open it, but found that it was locked from the inside. Eventually, police were able to force their way into the girls' room, where they found them, both of the girls, in the same bed, naked. Some sources say spooning. Some sources say they were just holding each other in each other's arms. The one thing that was consistent was that they were naked. That's what everyone seemed to say. To make things even easier, there was a bloody hammer with, like, again, blood all over it and also hair on it. It was right next to them, like on their bedside table. So, was it you guys? I'm going to try and do liner. Bear with me. So Christine and Leah were both arrested. Neither of them, I should say, denied what they had done. And Christine, she told the police like it was all self-defense. Once the media got word of this story, they lost their shit. First of all, two sisters having an incestuous relationship brutally murdered two women in their own home in 1933? Oh, babe. Oh, no. Oh, damn it. This is why I never do liner. I'll be right back. Just let me do it really quick, okay? You don't need to see it. Two women murdered, incestuous relationship, 1933 equals scandal. But like not even scandal. It was just like, holy crap. Like people had never heard of this before. When they were looking at the bigger picture, they were like, these two girls were working for this family for 7 years. They were quiet. They stuck to themselves. They attended church. They prayed on the regular, and neither of them had a criminal record. So they gave no signs that they were actually psycho murderers, you know? Like people wanted to know how, why, when, where, how, they want to know everything. One thing that came up a lot while researching this story was a lot of things in French, for starters, which makes sense, right? And this was a really huge story there, obviously, and still even discussed today. I mean, look, hi, talking about it now. But because of how often this case was covered, there's something else that comes up a lot too. And it's this idea of just how brutal the relationships between the wealthy and their servants were at this time. A lot of the public was calling for the execution of the Papin sisters. Many, though, were coming out in their defense. It had people very torn. The lawyers representing Christine and Leah in the case tried to convince the jury that they were not guilty by reason or by way of insanity, and pointed to a history of mental illness in their family as evidence. The lawyers were like, look at how fucked up their family is. Exhibit A. They did have a history of mental illness in their family. The only trouble was that several experts had already declared the sisters as being legally sane. So it wasn't helping. Now, Leah, this girl, she didn't speak. She didn't speak during any of the investigation or at all during the trial. Christine, she did all the talking for them. So really, we only have Christine's testimony. Anyways, so court happens, all that jazz, and Christine was sentenced to death by guillotine. Guillotine? That's dramatic. If I could time travel, I would like to go back in time and see that, like, someone get their head chopped off. Actually, I regret that. But like, wow, what a way to like end people. Leah, the other sister, she was sentenced to 10 years of hard labor as punishment. The jury considered Leah to be like an accomplice, but they believed that Christine was actually the mastermind behind this whole thing, and she must have been, or she was, forcing Leah to go along with it. Both women were put away in 1933, and Christine sat in prison just waiting for execution. While she's waiting in prison, she would have violent episodes where she would be like screaming, beg to be reunited with her sister, and was just throwing these like screaming fits. Christine would have hallucinations. She would start crying. There was even one point where she attempted to claw her own eyes out. Yes. I don't know why I said it like that, but like full circle moment. Bailey. So she's trying to claw her own eyes out, and this lands her in a straitjacket for the remainder of her imprisonment. It was the only way to really save her from herself. I mean, this had been the first time the sisters were separated from one another in almost a decade. She didn't know how to function. So, of course, while in prison, they could not allow Christine to see her sister. So Christine literally stopped eating in protest. She actually was never executed. And I'll tell you why. Hold on. I'm just now noticing that you can see my mirror right here, yeah? Oh, yeah, you can. Damn it. So Christine, she was never executed. Her sentence was changed to hard labor in 1934 by France's president at the time. She ended up being transferred to an insane asylum in 1934, and that's where she would stay for 3 more years, all the way up until May of 1937, when Christine, at the age of 32, she died from starvation. She starved herself to death. Leah, on the other hand, was released after serving 8 years due to good behavior. Once she was released, Leah changed her name. She's like, bye. She changed her name and she moved in with her mother, and she worked as a maid again. It seemed like the longer she spent away from her sister Christine, the more independent she had become. Many believed that Christine was indeed like this puppet master and the one in charge. And Leah was just kind of forced into this relationship and went along with everything because she didn't know any different. I mean, I would blame her too. If she's dead, I would be like, yeah, it was all her fault. It wasn't me. I'm innocent. So she could be doing that too. We don't know. And that is how this whole story ends, with one sister just wasting away in prison and another getting out of prison in France right on time for, let me see here, World War II. Yeah, she was released and it was like, boom, World War II. Some sources say that Leah died in like 1980 something, but then there was another source, and this one sounded more believable, that Leah actually died in 2001 after suffering from a stroke, which is wild to think about because this whole story feels so far away, but so close at the same time, right? Like 2001 doesn't sound that long ago, even though it was, which is weird, but it doesn't. Oh, and what happened to the other sister? Remember her, Amelia, the oldest? She became a nun at the age of 16. Hey. Okay. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. Do you think, what's her name, Christine was? She could have been the puppet master. We don't know, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know who you want me to talk about next week. I love and appreciate you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your week. Make good choices. Please be safe out there, and I'll be seeing you later. Au revoir. Goodbye.